Welcome back to the second best Josh-Jitsu channel on all of YouTube. And today I want to show you guys my return to Jiu-Jitsu competition for 2023 that did not quite go as planned. Let's jump right into it. I walked on the mat for my first match of the day and things were already off to a rough start. I forgot the SD card for my camera, so you're going to be dealing with iPhone quality here. And then there's this debacle of a handshake, which was a sign of things to come for the day. As you may have seen in some of my recent videos, I've been working a lot on guard pulling. So that was always the plan here for my first match, but I wasn't planning on doing it in the first 10 seconds of the match until I found out that my opponent's plan was to throw Edson Barboza level leg kicks from the very hop. Now I gotta say, in the first round of a match at blue belt and white belt levels, I noticed that things can be very spazzy and way too much energy is exerted on little things that really shouldn't matter, like gripping a random collar way too hard. And the only way to not get trapped into doing this is to compete regularly and building good habits, which is what I was starting to do last year. But then I separated my shoulder, got sick a bunch, and I just couldn't find a competition that I could make it to for quite a few months. But in this comp, I noticed how tired I was and how burnt out my grips were from the very first match. So I really want to get a bunch of competitions under my belt early this year to get back in the swing of things. As the match went on, my opponent quickly stood up and I went for a hook sweep. And I usually have a lot of success with this, but my opponent had my right hand sleeve preventing me from pushing off the ground over my head. Instead of gassing out here, I transitioned into a De La Riva with the sleeve and ankle grip. I saw that he was looking to knee cut and brought his feet close together, so I grabbed both ankles and went for a tabletop sweep. He was quick and athletic, bouncing up and running away, but gave me his back. So I locked my hands around his waist, and Matt returned him with an outside trip, which I find if I can pull off is a great way to down my opponent and put pressure on top without expending too much energy. As he came to his knees, I switched to a seatbelt grip, snuck in my hook, and created enough connection to stay with him as he rolled. With the bottom hook in, I was confident he wouldn't be escaping my back control, and by hamstring curling my leg down, I opened up the opposite side to set my second hook in and get 4 points. I started attacking a zipper collar choke, but like I said, my hands were burnt out so early in this one, and I didn't quite have it around his neck as I needed. My opponent rolled, forcing me to lose my hook, and instead of securing another back take and putting that hook back in, I started to abandon the position because he was pulling on my overhook arm and turning me off his back. With a few more rolls, he was able to shake me off and came into a deep half guard. I pulled the sleeve of his basing arm to return him to his back, but he rolled under me and started fighting to get on top. I felt pretty confident in my guard after the first sweep and kind of accepted bottom position. As we reset, I got a bit of a breather here and felt empowered by my girlfriend's great corner advice.
Don't let him try anything.
And I was able to create some space and set my butterfly hooks in a much better position. But my De La Riva wasn't enough to keep him from passing and moving into north-south. He got 3 points, so I was now down 5-4. I was trying to create distance between my hips and his because I knew if he could get his higher than mine, it could be the end of the match. Walking my legs out allowed me to turn my knees and turtle and get back to half guard. I was fighting for an underhook, but my opponent disengaged, and I went to a butterfly guard, elevating him, coming into De La Riva, and tabletop sweeping him again, where his response again was to turn away, giving me his back. I knew I was down and needed to dig my hooks in quick. From there, I finished on top and got the win on points by a buzzer beater. So I moved on to match number 2 with the win, and this competition was brand new to my area. So the organizers were struggling a bit with the schedule, and my match got delayed over and over again. And by the time I was called up to the mat for this one, I was feeling super cold and really had lost all momentum that I just created. I was thinking I'd do a bit more wrestling in this one since my opponent would have seen me pull guard quickly in my first match, and I did try a few things like this duck under, this snap down, and this single leg, but my opponent was super defensive. He didn't try to take me down at all, but he hand fought for inside position and really just prevented me from getting in on any shot. With a minute down, I went for the guard pull right into close guard. He got to his feet and had his hips far enough back that I couldn't hit the hook sweep, but I pulled him back to his knees and tried working an underhook, a loop choke, a pendulum sweep, and an arm bar until he passed right into side control for 3 points. Now I recovered my guard and tried to elevate him to get something going, but he was content on his pass and just dropped down into a defensive body lock. And although I tried to tilt sweep him from butterfly and came up for a takedown, he was tactically in control and managed to stay away long enough to get the win. With a frustrating second match down, I just couldn't rebound and went into just as frustrating of a next match, if not worse. To my surprise, my opponent pulled guard. I was able to escape his closed guard by standing and pressing down on his knees while shaking him off, and normally I would look to get an underhook and quickly knee cut here, but his wrist control on my right wrist allowed him to come up to my back. He got takedown points here, and I turned out into my guard and shelved his knee for an X guard. Now I distinctly remember being in this position and thinking I can go for a trusty tabletop sweep, but I also have nothing to lose at this point, so I could just hop on a straight ankle. And I listened to my ego. I decided to bite down on the attack, and looking back now, this was such a mistake because I didn't even have his butt on the mat yet. So he was able to defend by standing into the attack. I recovered into single leg X and knocked him down to the mat, but he jumped forward and I rolled through trying to come on top. As I stood, I tried to sumigashi as I saw an opportunity to get underneath him, but I didn't have enough upper body control to commit fully. Ending up in half guard, he got chest to chest and eventually worked a pass to side control. Things were really not going well. I recovered to close guard and tried my hook sweep with some success, but let go of the hook too early and didn't release the lock on my legs fast enough to secure top position. And that pretty much secured him the victory. I tried a few Hail Marys from bottom like an armbar, a triangle, a half guard sweep, but I just felt mentally defeated and didn't do enough to win. So, I was in a bad place after this match. Mentally, I was just beating myself up and really lost all confidence, which was not a good way to go into my first ever advanced division. But that's exactly what I did. I had already signed up for the Nogi at this tournament, which was 5 minutes sub only with 2 minutes of overtime where it was first to score. The kicker? I was the only blue belt in a division full of purple belts. Now, I love sub only. I think it's the most fun and scrambly rule set, but at this point in the day, I was so checked out that honestly, I wanted to stall my opponent out and try to win in overtime. I had no confidence that I could sub a higher belt on that day, which is not the mindset I usually have. I'd normally care less what level he is and would go balls to the wall for the win. Knowing he would pull guard, I just wanted to survive the regulation round and try to make it to overtime where I'd be full of energy and take him down. The problem was my opponent went all out for the sub. He mounted and triangled me and was just way more technical, and I didn't put up much of a fight at all. And to finish off the day, I still had one more match where I truly had no plan. My mind was in a whirlwind and I was a deer in the headlights. Basically on autopilot, I snapped my opponent down to front head control, but he ducked out on a beautiful go behind. I wizarded him into a face plant in the mat, but his hips had jumped behind me so fast that it was too late. He transitioned from side control to north-south, and with my arm dangling out in the open, he jumped out in the armbar and my elbow popped. The best way I can describe this performance is I was flat. I didn't have the mentality of doing whatever it takes to win. And to me, there are a few primary factors that I need to work on to start winning, and one of them is consistency. Not just consistent mat time, but consistent competition time where I can get in the habit of trying to win every battle because there are stakes on the line. I had good chances to capitalize on in these matches, I just didn't have the drive to work that extra bit the way my opponents did who won. So instead of a medal, all I went home with is a really sore elbow. And honestly, this was a super disappointing performance that I really didn't want to make a video on. That was until I saw a comment on my channel that really inspired me to share even the losses. And that's this comment right here. Wait, sorry, no, not that one. It was this one. Hey man, BJJ is a marathon, not a sprint. Keep training, big fella. And he's right. I can make up a million excuses for why I lost this comp, but in reality, it just wasn't my day and there's no point to mope about it. In the long run, it's just a bump in the road, and all I can do is get back on the mats once my elbow's feeling better, learn from my failures, and get better coming back even stronger. So thank you, Joe Mama, for the nice comment that got my mindset right. And you too, Jacob Gast.